Colossians 1 and 2. Well, the story of Colossae, the church there, is summed up in Acts 19, verse 10. And this, Paul's ministry in Ephesus, continued for 2 years, so that all who dwelt in Asia heard the word of the Lord. Colossae is a city inland about 100 miles from Ephesus. Paul never went there, from what we know. He didn't start the church, from what we know. But now he's writing a letter to this small town. And this is at the end of Acts, probably Acts 24 or 28. These are the two imprisonments of Paul that we just read about. So from either one of these imprisonments, he writes the letters Ephesians, Colossians, and Philemon. So we'll handle all three together. Watch what the story now can look like in a letter form. In other words, Paul's not going to be creating again any theology. He's going to be simply telling these Colossian believers about the story that he's been telling in the book of Acts, and now it's for us to hear really in very succinct, short order. You're not going to hear words in this book, for example, like law, commandment, covenant, Abraham, Moses, righteousness, justify, Israel. It's not a book written to Jews. It's a book written to Gentiles who are, in fact, let's just quickly review the story so that when we read portions today, we'll just draw it right in. Gentiles are being told that they can join the family of Jews, the holy ones, they're called in the Bible because of Torah, the privilege of Torah and atonement that they had through that. The Jews have the privilege of resurrection. That's the inheritance of the family. And so the story of the gospel is that Gentiles get to join this family and remain Gentile. And now they get the inheritance of the holy ones, which would be resurrection because of Jesus. We've talked about God being favorable to the Gentile in this story, and so be ready for the word favor or grace. Stoicheia are the gods of the Old Testament. That's a Greek word just meaning principles or principles of the world, as it were, but they seem to be beings and, again, the gods of the Old Testament. Well, with all this in play, let's just read some verses out of Colossians and watch how it all fits. Chapter 1, verses 3 through 6. We give thanks to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, praying always for you because of the hope which is laid up for you in heaven, which has come to you as it is to all the world, and it is bringing forth fruit as it is also among you since the day you heard and knew the favor of God according to truth. 1:10, that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing him, being merciful, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of the God. Imagine not growing up with Torah. They need now to learn about the God that they worship and Jesus. 1:12 and 13, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified us to be partakers of the inheritance of the holy ones in the light. He has delivered us from the power of darkness and conveyed us into the kingdom of the Son he loves. So we're exchanging the worship of gods now for the worship of Jesus in the kingdom. 1:14, through whom Jesus, we have now redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins. The cross is applied to us as Gentiles. They, of course, had atonement through the ritualistic temple and tabernacle system. But now the blood of the cross redeems these so they can join and thus have forgiveness of sins. Again, that's ritual cleanliness, now able to approach with the holy ones God himself. 1:20 and 20 through 23. By Jesus to reconcile all things to himself, and you who were once alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, yet now he has reconciled in the body of his flesh through death to present you holy and blameless. So now they are joining a family that already were holy. And again, we're always presuming that this group of Jews here that's called holy is holy because they also worship Jesus. Best case scenario. 1:25 to 27. I became a minister according to the stewardship from God which was given to me for you, the mystery which has been hidden from ages and from generations, but now has been revealed to his holy ones. To them God willed to make known what are the riches of the glory of the mystery of the Gentiles, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. They are being told about how God is favorable now to Gentiles as Gentiles because of what Jesus has done. 2, 9, and 10. Jesus dwells in the fullness of the theotes. He is divine, he is deity, he is not Yahweh, but he's, and you can see the word, the fullness of theotes is in Jesus, bodily. And you are complete in him who is the head of all principality and power. His feet are over the stoicheia. 2, 11, and 12. In Jesus you were also circumcised with the circumcision made without hands. It's a spiritual circumcision now, by putting off the body the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ, buried with him in baptism. That picture again of going into the water of baptism would be their way of showing they're joining this church now. 2, 13, and 14, you being dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, he has made alive together, having forgiven you all trespasses, and having wiped out the handwriting of requirements that were against us. Remember, the Torah had a curse on Gentiles. He has now wiped out that handwriting of requirements that was against us, which was contrary to us, and he has taken it out of the way, nailing it to the cross. A nice word picture there, that on the cross that day was nailed the Torah and its curse upon the Gentiles. 2:15, having disarmed principalities and powers, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in it. 2:18, let no one cheat you out of your reward, taking delight in false humility and the worship of messenger spirits. Again, the worship of gods is still going to be a temptation of the Gentile. And then finishing up with 2:20 through 23. Therefore, if you died with Christ from the stoicheia of the world, why, as though living in the world, do you subject yourselves to regulations such as do not touch, do not taste, do not handle, which all concern things which perish with the using, according to the commandments and doctrines of men? These things indeed have an appearance of wisdom, of self-imposed religion, false humility and neglect of the body, but are of no value against the indulgence of the flesh. These beings specialize in religion, and Paul is warning them, do not go back to man-made religion. What seems to be man-made, it's actually coming, Paul says, from the gods of the world.